So with Smash Ultimate just around the corner, there has been a ton of talk about the competitive tournament stage list for the game. There have already been a few stage lists released from different figureheads in the Smash 4 community who are going to shift over to Smash Ultimate once the new game comes out. And of course, these selections have caused some kind of controversy in the community because some people are for one thing and some people are for other things or are against certain things. So today I just wanted to take a look at the number of stages that we have, different aspects for each one, either in their normal form or their stage hazard form, and just sort of show off the scope of just how many stages we have to look at in this game. So the first one is easy, it's Battlefield. This one has been a neutral in the game since Melee, so it's pretty much just going to be a standard. A lot of people in Melee will strike to this, just be like, yo, you want to start on Battlefield? So this one's going to be obvious. This time around, we have Battlefield forms, and they're actually different from the way Omega forms work. In Smash 4, Omega forms could have walls, they could have different platforms, or the main stage could look a different way and it would function differently. This time, both the Battlefield and the Omega forms are one-to-one of the original stage. So no matter what stage I go to Dreamland, I go to Spirit Tracks, I go to Wii Fit Studio, if they're the Battlefield form, it's going to be exactly the same as normal Battlefield, and if I go to the Omega form, it's going to be the exact same as Final Destination. So Battlefield, easy to pick. Big Battlefield, obviously not going to be legal for doubles, but or not going to be legal except for doubles probably, but for singles definitely not. Final Destination obviously is going to be legal. I wouldn't say Peach's Castle is going to be legal. In fact, the rest of this top row is not going to be legal. Congo Jungle, maybe for doubles. I think it was legal for doubles in Smash 4, but definitely not for singles. Hyrule Castle, and this one. Why is this in a different language? I don't know why this is a different language. That's weird. Literally only this one is a different language. This is Yoshi's Island 64, but for whatever reason, it's in like Spanish, I would assume, but everything else is in English, so I don't know what that deal is, but definitely not going to be legal either. Okay, so Dreamland brings up an interesting case. We've seen some form of Dreamland in almost every Smash. It's the only legal stage in 64, it is a stage in Melee. Brawl, it missed the cut, but Project M had it as one of the playable stages, and then of course Smash 4 had it as DLC, and now it's coming back in Smash Ultimate. But of course, with the stage hazard toggle being a new thing, it will raise a question as to whether or not we should have wind on the stage. If you don't know, it blows wind occasionally, and it can mess up some recoveries and things, so there is definitely an argument to be made for it not being legal with the wind, and us having to use the frozen or stage hazard removed version. Personally, I wouldn't care either way. The wind has never truly bothered me, but Dreamland is one of my favorite stages, so I could see either of these being used. But of course, then we have Yoshi's Story and Fountain of Dreams, which both are two staples in Melee, and so I would definitely expect them to be on stage lists. I would be surprised if they weren't anyway. I would definitely recommend both of these to have the stage hazards on, because on Yoshi's Story, Randall the Cloud rotates from one side of the stage, then goes down, then goes to the other side, goes up, and then goes back over, and it can make for some interesting recovery options. You can aim for Randall rather than the actual ledge. I don't know if that will be as big a deal in Smash Ultimate because of the way the ledge works. In Yoshi's Story, in both the Melee and Project M versions, the ledge guarding is an actual thing, so you can't share the ledge, so it makes sense to mix up your recovery and maybe go to Randall, but I don't know if that would really apply in Ultimate. If I were making the rules, I would say start with Randall, and if it doesn't really seem like people are using him, then you can just go to the stage hazard off version and just make it a tri-plat stage. And then there's Fountain of Dreams. If I'm not wrong, I think a lot of the stage lists either don't have this stage or have it in its stage hazard off form, and I think that is a misplay. The moving platforms can add an element. Again, that's something that is proven in Melee. Certain matchups are changed based on where the levels of the platforms are, and it kind of gives the players something to take into account rather than just the character. Now they have to pay attention to the platforms as well. It can mess a player up, or it can save them if they're paying attention. Again, it's going to be, if I were making the rules, something I'd recommend. with the hazards on, so the platforms on the left and right can move. And if it doesn't seem to make a difference, you can keep them off. Although it is another triplat, and there do seem to be a lot of triplat stages in Smash Ultimate, so I could see why this one might be removed, but I personally think that the moving platforms added a cool element of competitiveness. Moving to the other side, Corneria is banned, Venom is banned, even though it's just Corneria turned sideways. Now we get to the interesting one, which is Pokemon Stadium, and I guess by association, we have Pokemon Stadium 2. Now, both of these, actually I should say, Pokemon Stadium 1 is legal in Melee, only kind of out of necessity, because most people tend to really, really hate the transformations on it. So with a Frozen Stadium with the stage hazard toggle, that would absolutely be perfect. Pokemon Stadium 2 in the Brawl days was actually banned because the transformations were actually far more crazy. In Stadium 1, they sort of just changed the layout, but they didn't really affect the player too much. If anything, it would really just cause them to stall. But on Stadium 2, there were too many crazy transformations. You had one which turned the stage into an ice stage, so everyone was slipping everywhere. You had one that literally had moving platforms going to the blast zone, so they didn't want that. You had one where air was blowing from the bottom, so everyone became floaty. It was just way too crazy. But now with stage hazard toggle being a thing, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 can definitely shine. I will be interested to see which one they choose, and I think that's going to come down to blast zones. If Stadium 2 is bigger, for example, they may want to choose that depending on what the rest of the stage list looks like. If Stadium 1 is bigger, whichever one they need it to be, they will choose that one because now they have that luxury. As far as what's it called? Like the size of the actual stage part, not the blast zones, I think that is a 1-to-1, the exact same. Like bouncing between the two, it looks almost identical. Obviously, it's going to look different, but as far as the platforms and the size of the actual bottom part of the stage, I think that's pretty much the same. Stadium 2 actually might be a little closer in. So, again, that may just come down to trial and error. We're just going to have to try the stage list out, see how it works, see which one is better, and then call it a day. But finally, we have a game where Frozen Stadium is legal. Project M changed Stadium 2 to be Frozen Stadium, and it was nothing but perfect. So I would definitely look forward to this. Delfino Plaza would definitely be an interesting one on the stage list, but it would all depend on how the hazardless version works. I don't know what the platforms look like in the hazardless version or how the hitboxes work. So I assume that we're going to have to wait until that is, sort of solid and confirmed evidence. But I wouldn't expect to see it on a stage list anyway. Delfino was always one of those really, really odd choices where we had it in a stage list, not because it was a good stage, but just because we needed stages to have, because we just didn't have enough stages to choose. It's got sections with walls, it's got sections with walk-offs, it's got sections with both walls and walk-offs, so it's definitely not the ideal stage in its normal form, and I would honestly be hard-pressed to see if even Delfino would be a decent stage in its frozen form, so I'm honestly not expecting this stage to be legal. Mushroomy Kingdom and Figure 8 Circuit would both be banned, obviously, and WarioWare would, of course, be legal, one of the more unique forms of a stage, a legal stage anyway. This was another one that was frozen in Project M, and it was very, very welcome. So I definitely expect this to be on most stage lists in its Hazards Off form. Its Hazards On form obviously would be banned because it's got all those mini games, but Hazards Off is absolutely a welcome change. Yoshi's Island Brawl was another stage that was legal in several different Smash games. Obviously Brawl, it was played in Project M as well with a little bit of a tune-up. And I think Smash 3DS also had it as a legal stage. In the normal form, of course, it's going to have platforms that rise up on both the left and right. It's going to have Shy Guys, which actually are hitboxes, just like on Yoshi's Story. And, of course, that middle platform angles. It doesn't move back and forth, but it stays in place and sort of changes angle. Now, the platforms on the side and the moving platform in the middle probably aren't going to be that big of a deal. The Shy Guys, I could see people being upset over because it can cause an issue. The same thing can be applied to Yoshi's Story, but I don't think, personally, it's a big enough issue. but I could also definitely see if people want to go with the Hazardous form to avoid even hitting Shy Guys. Unfortunately, the Hazardous form does mean that the platform in the middle stays perfectly straight and doesn't angle, which does take away a little bit of the kind of uniqueness of the stage, but I think it's well worth it if we get rid of the hitboxes, if the community decides, hey, we don't want those. Like I said, I'm personally fine with either way. I'm fine with the Shy Guys, or I'm fine with them gone. So either way, I would expect this stage to be legal in either of its forms. Lylat is going to all depend on those ledges. That is the biggest problem. In the Hazardous form, it is confirmed that it doesn't tilt, which is a big plus, and I think that's where a big problem with the ledges comes from. But again, we're just going to have to get the game in our hands, and we're going to have to see if those ledges are still as buggy as they have been in Smash 4 and Project M and Brawl and every other stage. But, or every other game, I should say. Though those are the only games, what am I saying? But yeah, it's all going to depend on those ledges if this stage is legal or not. Distant Planet, definitely not, but Smashville is where the big debate is right now. Some players are for the moving platform, some are against the moving platform. They both have their merits. The moving platform isn't really a bad hazard. Some people say that the moving platform can cause early kills off the side, but personally, I'm in the camp of moving platform. I don't think that dying really early off the side when the platform is, leftmost or rightmost, I don't think that warrants enough of a problem to change the stage to hazardless completely, especially because if we were to do that, the stage would basically become Yoshi's Island, but without walls on the side, because the hazardless form just has the platform stay straight in the middle frozen. So I would definitely think that the moving platform would be beneficial. This one could definitely be an interesting one. I always thought that if we had the ability to keep this stage at its default form and its first form, it would definitely be an interesting one. It may be too big. We may be getting into these are really, really high percents before someone's dying, but I would love to see someone out there try it and see if it would be worth it. The platforms themselves are interesting. Again, they're not uniform. They're not triplats in the traditional sense, so they could pose a problem as well. But try it. Who knows? We won't know until we try. Town and City is definitely going to be legal, although whether it's going to be frozen or its normal moving one, I think remains to be seen. The biggest problem is when a stage changes to the detriment of a player. And I don't think Town and City, or Smashville for that matter, really qualifies. Another stage that changes, like Delfino, for example, like I was talking about earlier, it changes and it seems legal at first, but then people die early off the top, or there are walk-offs or different things like that. So that's a detriment to the player, and that's why it ends up eventually being banned. This one, the hitbox, or the blast zones, don't change. You simply gain and lose platforms at different points in the match. So I think a moving version would definitely work, but the frozen form also would definitely work. Windy Hill Zone is definitely banned. Wily Castle is banned in its normal form, and unfortunately, it doesn't keep the moving platforms when it gets rid of the Yellow Devil. So it's pretty much an all or nothing. You either get the Yellow Devil with the moving platforms, or you get just the flat, normal, effectively Omega form Wily Castle from Smash 4. So in its normal form, I think it would be banned, but in its frozen form, I just think it would be redundant. We already have flat stages, so we don't need another one. And that is pretty much the list of every stage that I am confident could be legal in a competitive format. There are a few on some stage lists that have been recently published that are basically drafts that are a little, not odd, but they're counterpicks, so they aren't as neutral. There's Frigate Orpheon in its no hazard form, Castle Siege in its no hazard form. I know for sure Castle Siege was a counterpick stage when frozen in Project M, so that's one that isn't new to the competitive scene. It's just one that I didn't think would be chosen, although I can see now why people would choose it. There's also Arena Ferox in its hazardless form. Apparently doesn't really have any kind of ceilings or walls to worry about, so you don't worry about like pit of death situations. So that's another one that's been on a draft list. One of the stages I didn't expect to be on a legal list is Gamer. It's on 2GG's current draft for their competitive stage list. And of course, it's Hazardous form. But I honestly didn't think it would be a stage that people would want to play on. It seems like it's a very big stage, and maybe another stage could easily take its place. But who am I to decide? I'm not exactly a community figurehead. It's in the competitive scene, so I don't know. Maybe there is an actual logic behind it. It was just one that surprised me. But yeah, those are pretty much all of the stages. I just talked about the ones that I personally believed would be legal. Things like Yoshi's Story and Fountain of Dreams actually weren't on that 2GG draft list. And Stadium 2 was chosen over, Stadium 2 was chosen over Stadium 1. So I'm sure there's a logic behind that as well. It's obviously going to take some time to figure out a stage list for Ultimate, and the game's not even out yet, so that's not something we really need to worry about currently, like immediately, but we definitely don't need to be banning things really preemptively. If we start the game out with hazards off entirely and not have mixed hazards, so you know Stadium is frozen, but then we have unfrozen Yoshi's Story, for example, then I think that we're gonna just immediately start off on the wrong foot. I think at least starting with mixed hazards and then being able to say, okay, these probably don't work. Maybe rules keep getting changed on accident, or maybe it causes too much logistical issues. Excuse me. Then there's at least an argument for it. But I feel like right now there's no argument for it because nothing can be proven one way or the other. So I definitely think mixed hazards is the way to go until proven otherwise that we can't do it properly. But yeah, that is pretty much everything for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If I talked about a stage and you disagree with me, or I didn't talk about a stage and you think that perhaps it could be competitively viable, I would definitely like to hear about it down in the comment section below. Smash is all about the community. We are a pretty much community-driven tournament scene, so pretty much everything anyone has to say definitely at least has some merit. You know, your voice matters in the conversation, so if you have something to say, absolutely be sure to voice it. And I will be taking a look. Let's get some healthy debate going about why certain stages are legal, why some aren't legal, or why you think that maybe some rule lists could be wrong. For example, a lot of people are for mixed hazards starting out. I'm one of those people. Some people are for no hazards entirely, so I'd love to know what you guys think about anything and everything about the competitive stage list. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you guys are new, be sure to subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Peace out, and I hope you had an awesome day. I don't know why I said had. Have an awesome day.